Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you're here with me. Today we have a few little things we need to get done in the garden, so I thought I would bring you along. The garden is looking really nice. My tomatoes are getting huge, but as you can see, my broccoli all went to seed while I was on vacation. The cauliflower has also gone to seed. That's that right there. So we're gonna take those out. The cabbage is still going strong, so we're gonna leave that. And I need to top these tomatoes. These are all indeterminate tomatoes in here, so they're just gonna continue to grow and grow and grow until the weather changes and kills them off. The problem for me with that is that these cattle panels are only so tall. And last year, especially these ones over here, they grew so tall and then they bent over the fence over onto my neighbor's side of the fence, which I don't want to have happen. I also really want these plants to focus on fruiting and ripening the fruit that they already have on the plant instead of focusing so much on growing taller. So that's our goal with this project. My dog loves brassica plants. She keeps running over here every time I take one out and trying to steal leaves or flowers of the plant. What a funny pup. So this looks a little cleaner. As I clipped these tomato plants and got rid of all of these bolted brassicas, I found a little tomato. It's just starting to turn color, but it had all fallen off the vine. So we're gonna take this inside. It'll ripen nicely and we'll have a beautiful Dr. Witchy's tomato. This side looks a little bit better. Not quite so tall. Definitely shouldn't fold over into my neighbor's yard anymore. And now that we got rid of the brassicas, we can see all the beautiful tomatoes that are here. We have a few chocolate pear that are just starting to ripen, although this looks like it's started to be munched on. This poor tomato has been munched on. While I was on vacation, I had my mother-in-law watering the tomatoes, well, watering the whole garden actually. And when I got home, I noticed that I had a lot of blossom end rot going on with some of my tomatoes. I realized that the problem was I just asked her to water my garden and try to make sure it doesn't die. But what I didn't specify is the garden didn't need to be watered every single day. And that's what she did, which I really appreciate, and I love the fact that she would do that for me. But the problem with that is the tomatoes got a little too much water, and if you give them too much water or not enough water, you can end up with blossom end rot problems, and that's what I had from too much water. I learned that from last year. I also overwatered them last year, and I had a lot of problems with blossom end rot as well. Yes, sometimes it is a calcium problem, but more likely it's going to be a watering problem. At least from what I have noticed with my plants, it's always been a watering problem when I have blossom end rot. I have a little cat facing going on here. This was definitely a bloom that fused together and gave this really odd looking tomato. This is a Paul Robeson. This is a terracotta right here, and I have one that also cat faced. That's okay. They'll be a little funky looking, but chances are they'll be perfectly fine and every bit as edible as that perfect looking tomato. One side's done. One of the culprits that I'm pretty sure is eating my tomatoes. Slugs are seriously the bane of my existence in my garden. Even more so than squirrels, rabbits, and I'm pretty sure the occasional rat runs through here too. Get all of these out. On this side, I noticed we have a couple of cherry tomatoes that are almost ready to be picked. Those will be, well, as long as something else doesn't eat them anyway, those will end up being the very first tomatoes of the 2023 harvest. So super excited for those. This side looks a little bit cleaner also. There will be a lot more airflow to these tomatoes, especially down below with the removal of all those brassicas. The tomatoes will definitely appreciate that. The last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw in some Sluggo. Since I have noticed that there's something feeding in here, it could be a bigger problem. Like I know there's a rabbit that lives under my deck, so that could be creating a problem. It could be some other critter because there are some holes that have been dug in my garden. See, there's one. Here's another. And I believe there's one or two on the other side of the bed as well. So something has been crawling around in here. I don't know what it is. I haven't caught it yet. And if I didn't have this all planted, I would just let my dog in here, and whatever is in here would be dug out and taken care of in a heartbeat. But she's not allowed to come into my garden. Well, she's really not allowed to come into my garden at all, but especially not when it's planted, because she's not concerned with what she destroys on her quest to get whatever critter she's after. The Sluggo, I'm just gonna sprinkle it around. If you've never used Sluggo, I highly recommend it if you have a slug problem, or a snail problem for that matter. It takes care of both slugs and snails. It's rated as safe for organic gardening, and I find that it actually works really well. It doesn't get rid of slugs completely. I think once you have a slug problem, you'll always have a slug problem, but it really does help reduce the population and reduce the damage to your plants. I think the only downside, which this is going to be the case for anything, is that you just have to keep reapplying it. I usually have to reapply it. Oh, I should probably reapply it every month or so. I don't do that, which is why you're seeing some damaged plants, but I think I would have far less damage if I was more diligent about applying the Slug Up. Another good option is beer traps. I know a lot of people have really good success with beer traps. I've just, for whatever reason, have never tried them. A beer trap, all you're gonna do is you're gonna put beer in a bottle or a jar or maybe a pie tin. There's another one of the holes. And kind of put it into the ground, so the top of the jar or bowl or tin or whatever you're using is fairly even with the soil level. And that beer will really attract the slugs in. So you'll put it in there at night, and by the next morning, it'll be completely gross with slugs. I have seen plenty of instances where that does work really well, and for some people that is the only thing that works for them. I think it's the coming out to find the big pile of slugs that has turned me off, because I hate slugs. There's very few things in life that gross me out, but slugs are one of them. Here is the mound of brassicas that we took out. I didn't realize I had that many in there. It's easier to see when you have them in a big pile. Thank you for joining me today as I cleaned out my tomato beds. And cleaning out these brassicas are not only going to give my tomatoes room to breathe, but it's also going to make room for the fall crop. Because it is time to be planting and getting in the fall garden. And I do want to replant brassicas for a fall harvest, so stay tuned for that. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, it would mean the world to me if you hit that subscribe button. And if you click the bell right next to it, you'll get notified when I upload my next video. So I thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time.